What is up, everybody? Welcome back to the show. We are continuing our team reviews, and we're going through the alphabetical order of all the NFL teams. And we're at the Chicago Bears. The Chicago Bears from the NFC North. Dad, your beloved Lions rival, I guess. What are your overall predictions for the Bears this year? Improved from last year? Fringe playoff team?
Last place in the
Last
division.
place. Ouch. Yeah, I mean, it's not too surprising, I guess. That would be a huge disappointment for them. I think they're expecting to take a step up. There are some fantasy relevant guys here though, which is going to be fun to talk about. I guess we'll just get right into it. Starting off as always with the quarterback position. Let me share with you guys the depth chart here, and of course at the top, number one QB1, we have PJ Walker, Justin Fields. Justin Fields, who kind of exploded last year, 4 or 5 games into the season, was on pace to break the single season rushing record for quarterbacks of 1,300 yards. I think he finished with like 11 or something like that. Dad, Justin Fields is currently being drafted as the QB8 at the end of round 4. And he's going behind, of course, Mahomes, Allen, Hurts, Burrow, Herbert, Jackson, Trevor Lawrence, Justin Fields, and just behind him, Deshaun Watson and Dak Prescott. Do you think that's where Fields deserves to be? Behind Trevor Lawrence, ahead of Watson and Prescott?
I'd expect him maybe a notch or two higher than QB8, I think. I think he'll have another year like he did, but maybe the rushing totals are not going to be as pronounced. I mean, he did get hurt a couple times last year. I know I played through it. He played through it and stuff like that. They need to, the passing game's gotta show up a little bit. So there needs to be some improvement. This guy's good though, I mean, I watched him in the Big Ten at Ohio State, and he was not a runner at all. And, he showed the arm and everything else in the passing. And of course he always has, Ohio State's always got top flight receivers, but, so we'll see. We'll see what the rest of the, they do have quite a collection of running backs, which we're going to talk about. But, wow, Justin Fields was pretty kick-ass last year. And
Yeah, he had some monster games, that's for sure. Yeah, he missed 2 games, rushed for almost 1,150 yards. A couple of those were, he was putting up 100 back-to-back weeks of over 150 yards there in the middle of the season, which is pretty crazy. I will say the passing, obviously not quite there yet. I think it's better than what we, saw from him last year. I'm just kind of looking at, I know in the first few weeks, they were just not throwing the ball. He had 17 attempts, 11 attempts, 17 attempts his first 3 weeks. Attempts, not even completions. He completed 7. He had 23 completions his first 3 weeks in the season. And then they kind of started to throw the ball more there. Not a whole lot more, but more than like 20 times, and a couple more than like 25 times. So basically from when they started to do that in like week 6 up until, he got hurt essentially, he was better. He was definitely better. He was averaging about almost like 180 yards a game, which is nothing to write home about, but combine that with the rushing. Yeah, I agree. I think I'd take him over Trevor Lawrence, just because I'm not one of those that's in the camp that I think Lawrence is going to take the big step like everyone's expecting him, I don't think Lawrence is going to do enough on the ground and then get to like the 35 plus touchdowns total, in my opinion. Maybe he does, but I don't know. I'll take Fields. So I'll take Lamar over him, Justin Herbert over Fields, but I'd probably take Fields over Lawrence. So right around there, QB 7-8. Um, so are you expecting him to improve as a passer, Dad? Do you expect more like less rushing yards, maybe like a 700 to 800 yards?
Yeah,
rushing?
I think 700-800, and like you highlighted, the Bears were not throwing the ball for the first. I don't think it was the first half of the season. And then they kind of, Fields was was throwing the ball less than 20 times a game. So it's like they almost didn't trust him in a way, and maybe it's true or something like that. But geez, that sure needed to change, and it kind of did a little bit, but it needs to change again. There needs to be an uptick.
Yeah.
They talked about a lot about how many times he got sacked, so everybody instantly thinks the offensive line stinks, and that wasn't entirely the case. It was more of his get the ball out now ability, or his reading defenses and things like that weren't the best. So some of that stuff has to change.
Yeah. And I think something we haven't even mentioned yet is who he was throwing to last year. And it was pretty bad, especially when Darnell Mooney went down. He was throwing to Byron Pringle and Cole Kmet. I think was the lead. I think Cole Kmet was their lead target getter with 69 targets last year. Darnell Mooney was number 2, and then you had Dante Pettis, Equanimous St. Brown, Byron Pringle, Velus Jones, Chase Claypool from when he came over. So we're going to get to the receivers, but that, you're talking about a huge upgrade in receivers now. So I think that is going to really help his passing, and it's going to cut down on the rushing, but I think it can get him to like that 3,400 yards passing, 700-800 yards rushing type of season, and then hopefully he gives you 30 plus total touchdowns rushing and passing. So, but no one else to really talk about in the quarterback spot there. We'll get to the running backs because I think it's very, very intriguing. I put on the list here, you can kind of put whatever order you want, but it's Khalil Herbert, D'Onta Foreman, Roschon Johnson. For what it's worth, ESPN's depth chart does have D'Onta Foreman as the number 1 running back. I was coming into this year very early on. This was before the NFL draft. I was basically saying, I think I'm out on Khalil Herbert because people are going to overdraft him, in my opinion, and they're going to assume just because he looked good in a few games when Montgomery was hurt or something, that he's going to be able to take on a full load. I just wasn't going to buy into it. But he has looked good, Khalil Herbert. D'Onta Foreman, obviously the last 2 years, he took over for Derrick Henry in 2021, and he looked really, really good during his little stint with the Titans in 2021. He had 3 100-yard rushing games in the final 6 weeks of the season. And then last year, when they traded McCaffrey, D'Onta Foreman, after they traded McCaffrey, looks like 5 100-yard games last year in a 9-10 week stretch. So he's looked good. He's looked good running the ball. He was a high draft pick, or he was a highly thought of draft pick. He was a 3rd rounder, very highly thought of, but he tore his Achilles, and that derailed basically the first. He was drafted in 2017. That derailed the first 3 years of his career until 2021, essentially. So he's interesting. And then you have the rookie Roschon Johnson. Dad, give me your take. Who, if you're putting money on who's going to lead this team in carries this year, who are you putting it on?
Well, I'm going to split it up into half seasons and kind of cheat a little bit. In beginning, I believe D'Onta Foreman is going to be the man. And, last year, like you said, he had over 200 carries. So with Carolina. So I think he's going to get the ball quite a bit in the beginning. In the second half of the year, and don't forget we're talking about Chicago, so we know the weather starts sucking in the second half of the year. So the running game becomes very important. I think Roschon Johnson starts showing up, and he's a big boy. And I've heard some advanced stats. I'm sorry, I can't regurgitate them. They were, he was Bijan Robinson's backup at the University of Texas, so he didn't necessarily get all the attention and everything else. But I think the second half of the year, he's going to be the man.
Yeah, it's really intriguing to me because I just think there's a lot of value in, if there is going to be one main guy, I think there's a whole lot of value for that, because I think this team's going to be very good at running the ball with Justin Fields having to account for him as it's being played out right now in current ADP. I'm going to go from like June 1st, so well after the draft. But as of right now, with current ADP, it looks like Khalil Herbert is the first Chicago running back being taken, but he's not being taken until pick 105. So I can get in on that. That's late round 9. D'Onta Foreman's the next guy. He is going late round 12, and then Roschon Johnson's going about a round later, so late round 13. So all three of those I'm fine with. I think taking a shot on one of them is smart, and hoping that it pans out. If I had to put money on it, I agree with you, Dad. I'm going to go D'Onta leading in carries, and then Roschon, and then Khalil Herbert, which may shock some people, but I just don't know if I buy into him being the main guy. It's not like he's a small guy or anything. Like, maybe he can carry the load, and maybe we're just overthinking it and things like that. But I don't know. In college, he never had more than 155 carries. 1 year he had 155 carries. Other than that, he didn't have more than 120. We saw him in spot starts look good. He averaged 5.7 yards a carry, but a lot of that is he was maybe the change of pace to David Montgomery, and Montgomery got the hard yards up the middle. I did hear something, and maybe you heard it too, Dad. They were talking about it. I think it was during like OTAs and stuff, and they were talking about who are you going to start at running back, or who's going to be, what do you run at running back position? And I think it was like the head coach or the running backs coach. We want someone who can pass block, is what I heard, right? Like, pass blocking was like the number one thing they said, and something they're looking for in a running back. And I think that's interesting because Roschon Johnson is known as a pass blocker in college. He talked about it. He backed up Bijan, but he was like a really, really talented pass blocker. He can kind of do it all. Pass catcher. He never goes down with the first contact, but he can really pass block too. So I think that's very, very intriguing. I'm not 100% sure how D'Onta Foreman and Khalil Herbert are in the pass blocking area, but it really, really matters. Really, really matters, especially when you have a franchise quarterback back there. So I think that's intriguing. I don't know if you heard that, Dad. Did you hear anything about that?
I've heard a lot of good things about Roschon Johnson. It could be the missed tackle rate or something. I wish I remembered what I heard. So
he had one of the highest missed tackle forced rates in college. Obviously, he didn't have as much opportunity being behind Bijan, but in terms of the percentage of missed tackles to how many touches he had, was like right behind Bijan, basically. So that's probably what you heard about that. If you just throw on some tape of him, the guy never goes down on first contact. So a lot of people thought he could potentially be like a top 3 running back in this draft. So he's probably the guy I'm going to be targeting. him and Deontay Foreman, I think, it's just like pure runners. We'll see with Khalil Herbert. Training camp's going to tell a lot, I think. But we'll move on to the wide receivers. We talked about it. Definitely an improved group from Darnell Mooney, Byron Pringle, and Equinemius St. Brown. Now turned into DJ Moore, Darnell Mooney, and Chase Claypool. That's kind of how I have the top three being. I don't really think any of the other guys will make, break into that top three. And I think that's a solid receiving core of receivers. That is there any in particular, that you want a piece of? I mean, is it just DJ Moore? Do you think there's value in Darnell Mooney or Claypool?
Yeah, I think Moore I'm not sure his value changes from even when he was at Carolina. He'll catch a lot of passes, I believe. The touchdowns, there'll be a little light in the touchdowns. So that's the guy. Those are the guys that I think I would. I'm not sure about Mooney. Claypool, I don't know. He hears some weird things. Guy's drafted pretty high. What do you have? A ridiculous rookie season. The next coming of Jerry Rice and all that crap, and then he's kind of tapered off. And then he does stupid things in the game, and then he's kind of a typical wide receiver diva.
Yeah. Yeah, it wasn't even like an amazing rookie year. It was kind of like an amazing game. It was week 4 of 2020 at a 7-catch, 110-yard, 3-touchdown game. And basically his career has been on a downward slide since then. Like that was his high point of his career. Didn't live up to it the year before or the year after. I'm not too interested in Claypool myself. DJ Moore, interesting. You still have to get him kind of where you've had to get him basically the last couple of years. He's going right at the 4-5 turn, right? Late round 4, early round 5. Maybe that's a little bit cheaper. The only thing I'd say is like, obviously DJ Moore is super talented. It's been more of the quarterbacks than anything. I think we all can agree on that. He could have a Stephon Diggs type of career where Stephon Diggs was kind of this, DJ Moore-ish receiver until he went to the Bills and then exploded to what he is now, right? Stephon Diggs had last 2 years in Minnesota, 1,100 yards, 7-8 touchdowns, 90 catches, 70, 80 catches. So, that's kind of what he had. And then he exploded to what he is now. DJ Moore, I mean, can he do that, Dad? Can he turn Justin Fields into like a Josh Allen, what Stephon Diggs did to Allen, or what A.J. Brown did for Jalen Hurts? Can he do something like that and where he has like a 1,400-yard season?
Yeah, I think that could happen. That's not, the quarterback is capable. The wide receiver is capable. I know Diggs had his last year or two in Minnesota. I think he was there about 3 or 4 years. So, yeah. But then things just kind of fell in place when he went to Buffalo. It's not like he stunk in Minnesota or anything like that, but and him and Josh Allen became buddies. So DJ Moore definitely has that ability,
Yeah, and that's the biggest thing. He has the ability. We've seen it. He's been a good receiver for 4 years with subpar, 5 years with subpar quarterbacks. I mean, his best quarterback was probably like his rookie year when Cam Newton was still there. So, and that's 2018 Cam Newton. That's not even like prime Cam Newton years. So he just hasn't had it. And I think he has the talent, and that's something to keep in mind. It's more on, is Justin Fields going to take that step up to be a 4,000-yard passer? Because if he's a 4,000-yard passer or a 3,800-yard passer and a 25-touchdown pass guy plus, then DJ Moore could have a huge season, in my opinion. So It's always tough drafting him, though. I'm never super excited about him. Dad, I'm going to give you a couple names that DJ Moore's going around, and just kind of tell me who you would take. Drake London or DJ Moore? They're basically going at the same pick.
Wow, same concerns. Quarterback.
Yeah. Yep.
Probably DJ Moore.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think another concerns at quarterback: DJ Moore or Terry McLaurin. They're kind of very similar receivers, in my opinion, in terms of good receivers. We know they're probably better than what their stats say, but
yeah, McLaurin's navigated through the kind of the half-ass quarterback situation, and he's done pretty good. I don't know. That's pretty tough. I'd call that a tie, if I can do that. So
yeah, and if it's a tie, then I'm gonna lean Justin Fields over Sam Howell. So I'll probably lean DJ Moore in that sense. But if you look at like McLaurin and Moore's careers, they're essentially like the same, just like 1,100-yard receivers catching 80 passes and 5 touchdowns. But we know they're better than that. Last one, DJ Moore or Christian Watson?
Wow, maybe Watson.
Okay, like the upside there. You can get. He is going about 5 picks later, so it's not quite even. But yeah, I'd probably still lean more, but I'm not going to argue against it. I will throw out one name, Tyler Scott. He's a rookie that they drafted, I think, 3rd or 4th round. The guy's a burner. He runs like a 4.3, maybe like a best ball or DFS type of play. He's always going to be cheap, and he could explode for like 2 catches and 100 yards and a touchdown. So he's going to be that field stretcher for sure. So just someone to think about for like a best ball type of play where you don't have to – you're never going to start him because most of the time he's going to give you a catch and 20 yards or something. Tight end, we have Cole Kmet, and I guess Robert Tonyan we could throw in there. But Cole Kmet, again, leading target getter for the Bears last year with 69 targets, which is not great at all. I think a lot of people were shocked when I tell them that Cole Kmet was the tight end 7 last year in half PPR.
Yeah.
He averaged, just to show you what that means, though, he was tight end 8 in PPR. He averaged 8.7 points a game in PPR. Just not really moving the needle there. But I won't say this. He was tight end 7. He played 18 games, which is, again, or 17 games, which is half the battle of even getting to a top 7 tight end. But I will say this. He did put up those numbers, and he had 0 points his first 2 weeks. He literally, I don't even know if he had a target his first 2 weeks. That's when they just weren't throwing the ball. He had 1 target in week 1 and 1 target in week 2. So he had 2 targets in the first 2 weeks, put up a 0 stat line. So if you take those out, he's actually a lot better. Dad, are you in on Cole Kmet? He's currently going as the tight end 13. Are you okay with him if he's your starting guy, or do you want him as like your backup?
I'd prefer the backup, but you got to think of those fantasy owners last year. Kmet. I mean, the whole story was about last year about this time. Oh, he's going to be Justin Fields' guy. They're going to throw the ball to him a lot. He looked like him and Darnell Mooney looked like the only 2 legitimate pass catchers on the team, and that's the garbage we got fed. And people like my other son Brian, he drafted Kmet, but then when they lay big old goose eggs on you, zeros in a week, especially 2 weeks in a row, what are you going to do? You're gonna get rid of them. You're going to look at something else. Well, hopefully they've moved past that. I do think Robert Tonyan will help the passing game. Is he going to have relevant fantasy numbers? No. But I think overall, as another we'll call it another tool or another weapon in the offense, he's going to help a lot. So
Yeah, he could be a good red zone guy for him. Robert Tunyon had 11 touchdowns one year in 2020. Commit's slightly intriguing. It's not out of the realm of possibility that he's like the number 2 target getter on this team. And I look at 2021, and Justin Fields started a lot in 2021. He had 60 catches, 600 yards, which is decent. He just had 0 touchdowns. Then last year, he had 7 touchdowns. So if we can get back to that, 60 catch, 650 yards, 7 touchdowns, he's probably going to be a top 8 tight end. If we really think that Justin Fields is going to improve as a passer, we got to think, well, where are these targets going to go? Where are these catches? Who's catching these touchdown passes? So, yeah, he's a guy I'll take as like a late round flyer maybe, but not super excited to have him on my team. So, Dad, last place. Are you sticking with that? Last place in the NFC North?
Yeah, I think so. Them or everybody thinks the Packers are going to be 9-8 or something like that. I think the Packers can end up 4th place. No, the Bears are going to end up in 4th place.
And
in
then
the NFC North, yeah.
So what do you do if you're the Bears and you finish last place? Do you move on from Justin Fields 4 years, or I guess it would be your 3rd year in? And if he doesn't improve as a passer,
last place could be 6-11 or 7-9, and that's not a bad record. That isn't. I'm not sure you move on from Justin Fields unless you can get in the position. We know big quarterback class coming out next year. So if you can get in that position, sure. Just like we talked with Arizona there a few days ago, they're going to move on from Kyler Murray. Get in. But the Bears are not that bad of a team compared to, the Arizona Cardinals. So, but things change. People get hurt. You got to play the season. So,
yep, definitely. Well, we'll see. We'll see how they do. We'll probably do like a predictions video closer to the season. We're gonna finish up there. As always, appreciate it for you guys watching. We will continue to put these out as we move along. I think next on our list is Cincinnati Bengals coming up next. So, obviously one of the better teams, fantasy teams, and NFL teams. So we'll be back with that soon. If you could, again, like the video, subscribe to the channel. We'll catch you guys next time.